just one thing. Just one thing. But there are so many things.
No.
Just one.
Okay, the one thing.
Among so many things.
One thing. Okay, so Jordan, the object that we're talking about today is...
It's my ring, my engagement ring, which is an heirloom from my great-grandmother in France.
I'm Sonia Sly, and this series is about the things in our lives, the important precious things that we hold on to.
So it's very big and chunky. I'd almost say it's a little bit Art Deco looking, which is unusual because it's from the 1920s, which back then I believe jewellery was actually quite dainty and small, so it's quite strange that it's a big chunky old thing. It's got a lot of diamonds in it.
This is Jordan Rondell, aka The Caker. She runs a beautiful boutique store situated on Auckland's K Road, and I've come to meet her after closing time, surrounded by perfectly pink decor. You see, Jordan has a bit of a story to share. A love story. Well, maybe more than just one. And it's all because diamonds are a girl's best friend.
It's my first diamond I've ever had, so it's quite special.
So it's gold.
Yeah.
It's almost like got a kind of basket kind of
It does
slightly
almost, doesn't it? Yeah.
design.
Like it's sort of hollow underneath the raised part. I've almost thought it looks a little bit like a cake. Got that sort of like tiered kind of effect.
Is it a bit too big for you?
Yeah, it's enormous. Sometimes it flies off my hand. Stefan has been saying to me, you need to get it resized before you lose it and it's too late. But I wear a little ring in front of it to kind of hold it on.
When did this ring come into your possession?
My sister knew the existence of this ring. She thought there was just one ring. Got engaged before me. Her fiancé Mike organised to get the one that she knew about from my grandmother who had it in her possession in France. So he got it kind of sent over, gave it to her in Cuba. Little to my knowledge, 2 rings actually turned up from Paris. So one was from my great-grandmother on my grandmother's side, so her mum, and the other one was from my great-grandfather, my granddad's mum. My sister took her first pick on the one she wanted and gave the other ring to Stefan to give to me.
And her reaction to the ring?
First it was complete surprise that there was another ring, so special that it had come all the way from France and it had all, my family's history to it, so I was extremely happy that he gave it to me. To be honest, I still don't even know if we will get married. I'm honestly quite happy just having this ring for the rest of my life. I think this means enough, and I guess it's like a promise ring more than anything.
So he lives overseas?
He kind of does. He's a tattoo artist who does what you call a guest spot overseas, so it's the most amazing job to travel with. He's got a working visa for the States, so he spends pretty much half his time over there and half his time here. It got a little bit hard sort of in the dead of winter here. That's when I was like, oh, this sucks. This is dumb. Why are we even doing this? Sort of a leaf turned this year. I knew this was going to happen again, that he had to go again. And I don't know, for some reason this time is easy. I'm not struggling with it at all.
I mean, so you believe in like true love, that it exists? Are you quite a romantic person?
Yeah, for sure. I do believe that, and I think I am quite a romantic person at heart.
So with your grandmother, how long had she been married? I mean, she's still alive?
Yeah, she is. They got married in their 20s, and they're now in their late 70s. They still kind of like kiss each other in the elevator and yell at each other, but in the most kind of French, like friendly way. They'll be together for the rest of their lives, definitely.
Have you seen pictures of her with the ring, like wearing the ring?
No, I haven't.
What do you know about their love story?
My grandmother, I call her Granny, she's French. She comes from a really well-to-do kind of high-class family. The surname is Delpech du Frosonnet. It's like a really beautiful name. When she met my pappy, he was more of a kind of working man. It was kind of a big ordeal. He had to ask her family permission to marry her and all this kind of stuff. She left this life of, I guess, extreme luxury and married him because they fell in love, but it was almost like 2 different classes kind of marrying in a time when I guess it was less frequent than it is today, maybe. There's like a letter that I've seen.
Okay, so Jordan's grandmother has clarified that her grandparents were Alfred and Madeline, as in Mad, and this is a letter from Alfred to Madeline's mum.
Madame, I am sending you this letter in order to tell you that, after serious thought, I must thank you sincerely for having granted me Mad's hand after my contact, which certainly did not deserve such a reward. As I have told you, my father refuses this union, but as I have given you my word, nothing will make me fail. Everything will work out because after having turned your daughter's life around, I got your forgiveness and your consent to our wedding. I would like to present to you, Madame, my respectful homage. Alfred de Frisinet.
The conduct, of course, is getting Mad pregnant. Do you know how the families responded to that?
Her family was disappointed, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I can't go past a good love story. And this one also encapsulates Jordan's passion for creating in the kitchen.
So my great-grandfather on my pappy's side was a famous patisserie chef in France. So he baked bread, during wartime. His baking knowledge, I guess, got passed down to my grandfather, but my grandmother also is the most amazing cook and baker. And so I have some really early memories of sort of, being too little to even reach the bench, but baking tarts and making jam and clafoutis and all that kind of stuff with them. So I definitely get my love for baking from them.
And how often would you go to France?
I was there for the first 3 years of my life, and then we came back for a bit, and then ever since then I would go back every second year because my grandparents would come here every other year.
When your grandmother was baking, that's like just in her home kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. Tiny little kitchen. Even just the smells of the kitchen, and when you open the fridge, there's that French cheese, which isn't pleasant, but I have the fondest memories of it all.
I mean, can you remember the house?
It was a beautiful apartment, 2 stories, wooden floors, actually probably pretty big for Parisian standards, in an area called Charenton-le-Pont. So it was still on the metro line, so still pretty central, but you wouldn't call it the centre of Paris or anything. A family-ish neighbourhood, and, there was a bakery on every corner. They used to send me down with my couple of euros. They'd always ask me to get the bien cuit, which is the well-cooked baguette. That's their favourite, when it's just slightly burnt almost. Not burnt, but really dark. It's almost like a sourdough.
What was some of the favourite dishes or the most memorable cake that you ever baked with your nana?
With my grandparents, I would make a lot of pastry-related things. Beautiful peach tarts. Oh no, it was nectarine, I think. Made the pastry, and then my grandmother showed me how to lay out the fruit in the most perfect way, and then sprinkle it with sugar and just the jams as well. I've never made jam anywhere else than France. They would go to the market just down the road and buy the most beautiful apricots by the box and just cook them all, and they had a whole stockpile of the jam. Whatever one you felt like for breakfast that day, you're allowed to open it. And I think that's a really big thing that I got from them, all about the ingredients. And baking with fresh ingredients like fruit is such a massive part of my aesthetic now. So all of our cakes are packed full of fruit, and that's what I learned from her. It's there's nothing better than what nature gives you.
That love you have for your grandmother and of the, spending time cooking. And is it the same kind of love as well that you have for what you do now?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't really get to bake that much anymore. On my day that I do get to bake, I love it. And I remember why I even started this is because I absolutely love making cakes. I guess nowadays my favourite part is the icing and decorating. We're so busy now and we make hundreds of cakes a week. We still do everything in really small batches, but on a Friday it's almost just batter after batter after batter after batter. So I much prefer being out here on the decorating station and just creating this baked cake into this beautiful thing that you can put in a box and give to someone.
I imagine that you experiment quite a lot, do you, when you're baking on your own? It's so creative.
Absolutely. Well, every Sunday I write for the Sunday Sour Times. I provide a sweet recipe for that every week. So every 2 months with my photographer, we shoot 8 of those recipes. I kind of spend the month leading up to that time just playing around and creating new recipes. And
do some of them just not work?
Yeah, every now and again. The last shoot I had to do, I made some cashew, apricot, coconut things, and they just weren't sweet. Because I always get my girls to make the final recipe because they're the ones that sort of do any edits. But they were like, you're going to need to add a dash of maple syrup to these. And Because I've got such an inherent kind of knowledge of baking now, I know what makes something work and what doesn't.
Now, Jordan also works alongside her sister, who she says is very different, but her sister handles the business side of things. And remember how she also had a ring of her own too? Well, guess what?
So she lost hers.
What? No.
Yeah. So hers was actually really similar to mine, which again is strange because two very different families. She was walking home one night from work actually, and got home and it was not on her finger. And so she, turned over the whole house. They live in a little house. We retraced our steps, but it was already 6 p.m. by that point. So, if it had been picked up, it was already long gone. This sounds so weird, and I don't want Stefan to hear me say this, but even when Anouk, my sister, lost hers, I was almost like, oh, do you want mine?
I mean, are you someone who does get quite sentimental about the objects that you have in your possession?
I'd like to say I'm not, but I do think I am. This is the first ring that I really ever wore, because as a baker you can't really wear rings, there's no point. But now that I bake less, I wear it every day. When it's not on my finger, I feel like there's something not there. I've got such an emotional connection to it, and it is such a prized possession of mine, but I will end up passing it on to my daughter if I have one, for sure. Yeah.
That was Jordan Rondell, aka The Caker. You also heard Duncan Smith reading the letter, and the podcast was also engineered by Mark Chesterman. I'm Sonia Sly, and you've been listening to Just One Thing. If you'd like to find out more, head to our podcast page on the rnz.co.nz website and subscribe on iTunes.